He ended the date by calling his mom, telling her that he met his future bride, that we were going to give her grandchildren. Girls who have been guilted into going out with a nice guy, how did it go? He was genuinely nice and I thought I was being too picky and maybe I could see this through, if I took the effort of getting to know him. But every time I offered a contradictory point of view on any generic topic of discussion, he would proceed to casually mock my appearance, attire and my personality, in retaliation to my disagreement. That was the last date, obviously. All my friends said a guy from our group of friends was very nice, even though I felt like he was creepy. Went out once, thought I'd give it a chance, to be nice. Regretted it immediately. He asked me what I thought of being in a relationship with him, and when I said no and I didn't want that, because I wasn't very interested and we had only been friends before this, he said he was disappointed with my answer and expected something more worthy of him. He said that saying no was disrespectful. Big yikes. We met once after that because he surprise visited me a few months later. He asked me to ruffle through my hair because he wanted to feel my scalp, treated me like a dog and wanted me to sit next to him so he'd be closer to me. He also thought it was a great idea to mention that he sometimes hears voices in his head and has dreamt of killing people. I rushed him out of my apartment onto the street. I just wanted him to be gone. I checked my keys 5 times to see whether he took any. I've had to see him a couple times since then, and he is the most creepy, socially inept person I've ever met. He's so aggressive and impulsive. I am truly afraid he will assault or kill someone someday, and I'm still afraid that that person could be me. We were friends in high school and most of college. It was one of those things where he was a friend of a friend, but we always went to the same parties, hung together in the same group and so on. The guys in the group would always say things like, "Aw man, you and Kyle would be so great together. You should give him a shot." I'd kind of laugh it off because for a majority of the time I had a boyfriend. Eventually me and the boyfriend broke up, and about a week later Kyle asked me out. I wasn't really ready, but I figured it was a first date and everyone had been pressuring me into giving this guy a chance, so I went. The whole evening was awkward. We just ordered a pizza and watched movies, which was what we did in our friend group anyways, but this guy would not stop staring. I felt like I couldn't even eat because I was under a microscope. The evening ended uneventfully, but then there was the aftermath. We kept texting and seeing each other in the friend group, and about a week later he asked when we can have another date. I told him that maybe I had rushed into things too fast and I just wasn't feeling any connection with him. I broke up with my girlfriend for you. Yup, dude found out I was single, dumped his girlfriend of 8 months just so he could ask me out to an awkward pizza date in his bedroom. The timely cherry on top is that they got back together, and apparently I'm tearing their marriage apart because she found a bunch of texts from me from 6 years ago and he admitted that he kept them because he still likes me. I haven't seen him in 4 years. The date wasn't too bad, although he kept changing pretty much every single sentence he said so it would fit my interest. Something like "I like ice cream, cool, I like frozen yogurt, oh yeah, that's what I meant. Ice cream is nice but frozen yogurt is amazing," and so on for 4 hours straight. At the end I had no idea what he was actually like. He also kissed me in the most awkward way possible. I guess he thought it was going to be romantic and spontaneous but it wasn't. Then kissed me again when he walked me to the train station. He hugged me so hard I couldn't breathe and started making weird noises, kind of like what some people do during heavy, pre-sex makeout sessions, except it was a rather quick kiss in a public place. Started texting me before I even got home and when I didn't answer, got upset. Told him he was nice but I don't think we'd work out. Said it's cool, asked if we can stay friends. Silly me, I said yes. We kept talking for about a month, during which he very friendly kept checking if I had slept with someone else and making sure I know how much of a sex god he is. You know, I once even made my lesbian friend cum super hard. This is also the time I met my current boyfriend and was meeting a bunch of new people at uni, so we'd talk less and less each week. Then one day he asked me out. I said I wasn't sure if he was completely fine with us being just friends, so that wouldn't be appropriate. He went on this massive rant about how he'd actually been seeing someone else in that time, but they broke up shortly before that, how he's so over me and didn't even think I'm that hot anymore and how nothing would happen. I said no, because I was broke and couldn't fully enjoy myself while worrying about not spending too much. We were supposed to go to a Metallica concert. Apparently his best friend had spent £120 on his ticket but then last minute found something better to do, but he promised he'd take care of everything and we could chill at his place with pizza and some films, as friends. I said I could consider the concert but there's no way I'd stay over. I mentioned texting someone else to see if they would be fine with me sleeping over at theirs afterwards. He jokingly asked if it's someone I'm sleeping with, and I said it's none of his business. Then he told me how much of a witch I was for sleeping with other people and not sleeping with him. He said it's so unfair that he knew me so much better but he felt like other people had more rights to me than him and that we kissed and he didn't expect me to be this slutty. By the way, I did not want to kiss him, it was just so random. I felt him making out with me before I even realized what his intentions were and stopped it rather quickly. He called me a few more names, said he's such a nice guy and didn't deserve to be treated like that, and we never spoke again. Fun times. I was a college freshman. First week of school, I was in my dorm hangout area going through the calendar on my phone to add exams to my schedule. I didn't realize that nice guy was looking over my shoulder as I was doing so. He goes, "I see you don't have plans on Saturday, we're going to breakfast." I continually objected and said I just hadn't gotten around to adding anything to it yet. He wouldn't leave me alone about it all week, so eventually I agreed to go on Saturday. I was purposely on my worst behavior in an attempt to repulse him because clearly, my opinion didn't matter otherwise. He ended the date by calling his mom, telling her that he met his future bride, that we were going to give her grandchildren. He handed the phone to me, so I straight up told his mother that I had no interest and was only there because he wouldn't leave me be, and apparently acting like a barnyard animal wasn't enough of a turnoff. Mom laughed and said, "Sounds like my boy." He would sit on the couch outside my dorm door to bombard me whenever I tried to go anywhere, followed me to and from classes for 2 months, and tried to befriend my roommate to get closer to me before moving on to a new target. She ended up with a restraining order against him. Wasn't really a date. I was at a hiking trip with my sister and other people from our village when we met a group of guys, drinking and having fun. Was on Father's Day, so it wasn't an unusual sight. For some reason my sister got into a talk with the guys and somehow got me and her invited for the party at one of the guys' house later. No big deal, we brought her boyfriend with us and were expecting some good time. My boyfriend was on a biking trip with his dad, so he couldn't come. We arrive and nobody else is there. Guy says they will all arrive later and we are early, 30 minutes after the time he told us to be there, and we start drinking, having fun and everything. He clearly has a thing for me, invites me to go on festivals with him. Sister's boyfriend tells me I would be stupid if I say no and he would totally be going. The others arrive and at some point the homeowner asks me to go out for a walk, he needs some air. We walk a bit and suddenly he turns around, telling me I am the love of his life, the girl meant for him, most beautiful, smart, etc. he has ever seen. I was shocked and didn't know what to say except I have a boyfriend, you know. He said he doesn't care, we're clearly soulmates, and then just kisses me out of nowhere. Tells me he would break up with his girlfriend for me, he never mentioned her before, and I should do the same. Luckily, my sister blacked out on the toilet and someone shouted at him for help unlocking the door, so we went back up. I took care of my sister, his girlfriend arrived, he pulled me aside and told me he would do it now, right here. I said no and he told me to take my sister and leave. What I did then? He messaged me on Facebook the next day that I was a whore and I lead him on, and he almost broke up with his future wife for a witch like me. I was that girl who loved the bad boys. My nice guy had been my best friend for a number of years and I always knew he liked me, but I was busy chasing a-holes. 9 years we were best friends and grew up together, and he watched me pick all the wrong people and get hurt. Other friends kept telling me to give it a chance, etc. 2 years ago he asked me to come over for dinner. It seemed fairly casual until I realized he'd asked me for Valentine's Day. I can't say I was guilted as such, but it still felt a little awkward. I was mega nervous thinking it was gonna be so awkward, but when I turned up it was fine. He'd cooked me a meal, bought flowers, a bottle of wine and chocolates, and lit candles on the table. I don't drink much, so he ended up getting through the whole bottle of wine because he was so nervous, but it was a lovely evening and things felt very natural, so I decided to give it a go. We're now headed towards our 2nd anniversary, have a lovely home together, a beautiful, but evil, Egyptian Maucat, and couldn't be happier. Because we were friends first, we know we get on, we finish each other's sentences and never run out of conversation. Yet to have one argument that goes beyond whose turn it is to wash up, lol. He is genuinely the best thing to happen to me ever. Sometimes the nice guy does win. I met him through online dating, and after a couple of weeks of chatting online decided to cool things off as he was giving off a creepy, needy vibe that frightened me. He would ask about ex-boyfriends frequently and tell me that he would be good for me, ask sexual questions without any encouragement and want to know intimate details. I forgot all about him until he sent me a random message months later and apologized for his previous behavior, which he blamed on a tricky breakup. Time passed and he seemed to be a new person, so I gave in and met with him. Our first couple of dates seemed fine with just a few odd comments that I should have paid attention to. Then he started questioning where I was and who I was with, but again I just foolishly ignored this. The first time, and last time, I stayed at his. We went out for a drink beforehand and he was judging me for having a couple of beers. When we got back to his, I wasn't feeling up to anything sexual, so told him firmly no and went to sleep. Later that night I woke up to him on top of me. I never confronted him about this. I just pretended I hadn't woke up and made my excuses the next day before blocking him from my life. I've never told anyone this before. I just wish I'd listened to my previous instincts and kept well away. Well, I might not be a girl, but I was the nice guy in my first relationship. I was meeting a girl which I knew from a friend's girlfriend. At first everything was nice and we weren't having anything serious, just meeting like friends, playing paintball and pool and so on. However, I really liked her and she did recently break up and I tried to cheer her always up. So then I asked her politely if she would consider trying a relationship, and to my surprise she said yes. I was the happiest guy on earth this day. So we started dating seriously, going to cinema and doing stuff alone. But I don't know why I really got clingy. Like I wanted to see her all the time. I wanted her to come over to me and it ended up creeping her. Which in hindsight I really understand, and she got continually creeped out until she broke up and I was devastated. I didn't force her to anything, but I was, as I said, clingy. After that I was depressed for over a year and then got my stuff together. I am sorry that she had to experience me like that, and I also apologized for that, and now we are just normal friends. Not as good as before, but well. But all in all it ended up good for me, since because of that I ended up with my current girlfriend, and without seeing my failures from past I wouldn't be able to hold this relationship. I was in high school and figured I should give the guy a chance. Maybe I was just being snobby. Anyway, we decided to go to the movies. His older sister came along to chaperone, and spent the movie sitting in my lap to make sure we didn't get up to anything funny. After the movie, I said I had to go home. Later that night, he calls me crying to confess he'd snapped a picture of me and whacked off to it. There was not a second date. Incidentally, this was when I began to have an inkling that I maybe like girls. My story definitely isn't half as bad as what others have posted, but my experience did send me into a hole of recluse crappiness. He liked me based on my taste of music, not actually for me. At the time, 15 years ago, hardstyle and trance was still underground and not like it is now in Australia. I happened to be the first girl he had met who liked this music, so he thought I was cool and wanted to date me. He guilted me into dating him by being depressed and sulking, saying I wasn't even giving us a chance, that it could be something fruitful but we would never know. Big red flag should have been when his idiot friends were contacting me on ICQ. For you young'uns, it was how us oldies communicated with each other back in the 1880s via instant messaging, trying to sell him to me. It was all the typical crap of he's a great guy, he hasn't eaten since you turned him down. He doesn't even laugh anymore. And all of the usual crap. Being naive me, I thought, why not? He did seem to make a good case when he said I was denying us a chance. He definitely proved his worth after a week of dating. He pulled out all of the romantic stuff no guy ever had, even until this day. We went to different high schools. He skipped his final class of school every day to pick me up from my school and drove me home. It was a half-an-hour drive to get to my house, then another half-an-hour drive for him to get to his home. Bought me no occasion flowers, wined and dined me. I really felt stupid for turning him down at first. A month goes by and he ends our relationship over the phone. But by this time I thought he was the best thing ever, despite not actually having anything in common. I didn't even find him funny, but just the way he treated me made me feel like this is what love is meant to be. He just said he wasn't feeling it anymore. I found out the day after from a friend that there was a new girl at their school, and he thought she was hot stuff, so his thought process was to drop me, woo her, and then live a happy life together. Turns out new girl didn't like him and he and his entourage tried the same guilt trip with her. She was a lot smarter than me to continually turn him down. At the time, I felt like I had a huge hole in my heart. I had never been so spoiled with love in my life. I didn't know how to handle the pain, so I wrote poems and listened to sad music. I remember putting Vertical Horizon, Everything You Want on repeat. I felt stupid to tell my friends about the situation in fear of them saying wasn't that the creep who tried to win you over and you weren't interested in him anyway? After a few months of the idiot failing to win the new girl over, guess who came crawling back? I never told him that I knew about his crush on the new girl and his failed attempts of winning her over. He said stuff like, "I realized how much I missed you in the last few months. I didn't know what I was thinking when I broke up with you." It was at that moment I realized that it wasn't losing him that I was upset over, it was the feeling of being loved and being spoiled that I missed. I just said, "Well, the last few months have made me lose feelings for you like you said you had for me." It still sucked and took me a long time to get over the short-lived month of feeling loved. Took me even longer to get over the fact that I was hurt over a bloody con man who didn't even like me for me. Guilted into having a one-year relationship with one. He was super nice at first, and I was young and naive. He flirted, seemed nice and honest, so I thought, what the hell? Why not give it a go? Big mistake. Realized quite quickly that he just wasn't for me. We had very different political views, very different opinions on things. He was very degrading of me. Made fun of my weight, made me think I was fat. I was not at all. Always had a healthy BMI, always have been sporty, but obviously being my young teenage and vulnerable self, that really crushed my self-esteem. So when I finally decided I had the balls to say I don't want to be with you anymore, he guilted me into staying with him, saying you'll never find a guy who'll love you like I love you, or if you leave me I'll kill myself, and all the rest of the typical reasons a nice guy will use to guilt you into staying. In the end I ghosted him. We were supposed to meet up, but I never showed up. I changed my number, deleted social media for a couple of years, moved out. Never heard from him again, which I am very pleased to say. After a few years of tepid friendship, something was always a bit off about him, but I thought he was such a nice guy and I was just being a judgy witch, plus he always claimed to be so in love with me. I agreed to a few dates with my friend. On one date, we went out with a whole group of couples to this state park a few hours away, and during the ride home, I dozed off. I woke up to him groping me under my clothes, and when I told him off, he twisted it around like I was being ridiculous and imagined his hand under my bra. Like, we're on a date, why was I being so weird, etc. When I told him I had to cancel out fourth date because I'd gotten grounded after accidentally setting the kitchen on fire, he punched me. Mostly in the face. Punched me. He spent the rest of high school periodically stalking me and my sisters, ranting and raving to literally everyone about how I just didn't understand and he loves me. He's just so emotional with his true love for me that sometimes he acts without thinking. He's not like those other guys that would make sexual comments about my appearance. Why did I have to be such a Stacy? He's the best friend I ever had until I ruined it all by willfully misunderstanding and refusing to hear him out or give him closure, on and on. What a nice guy. Guess he tried to break into my bedroom window out of love and concern, huh? I had been homeless for 2 to 3 months and I said F it and started stripping at a local strip club. I was able to make enough cash a week to finally get a place of my own. Instead, I wanted roommates so I could use it to go back to school. I found some guys looking for a roommate and I was able to get in there with them. We all got along. We were all nerds. Me and first roommate got along great. Second roommate was very quiet and ignored me a lot. After the third month of living together, my second roommate was a complete creep. He would text me all the time, asking where I was, who I was with. He would tell me when he graduated, he was 2 semesters away, that we could get married and I would never have to strip again. He texted me almost every day. I fell asleep once on the couch and this dude groped me while I was asleep. He kissed me without asking. He would constantly take my purse and put it in his room, so I had to talk to him and ask him where my stuff was. After about a month of that stuff, I sort of started sleeping somewhere else, at my boyfriend's house, or I just wouldn't go home and stay out until 9 a.m. I would work double shifts at the club, so 2 p.m. until 2 a.m. just so I wouldn't be at the apartment. I remember this one night I got out of work at 2 a.m. and decided to drive to the beach because I didn't want to go home yet. I'm halfway there when another club calls and asks if I wanted to work an after-hours shift. I say okay and head back. I leave at 5 a.m. from that club and head again to the beach to watch the sunrise. I'm about to hit the bridge to get to the island and creepy roommate calls me. Tells me to come home, that I need to be home and safe, and that he really needs to talk to me. I hang up after I tell him I don't care and I don't like him. I call my other roommate and ask where creepy roommate is. Nice roommate tells me he's just playing. I flat outside and just hung up. Creepy roommate calls again and tells me he's going to kill himself if I don't go home to him. I hang up and call other roommate again. Nice roommate tells me that creepy roommate took all the knives into the bathroom and locked himself in there. I'm furious. Like, this guy was 23 years old acting like a high school girl having her first breakup. I drive all the way back. I run upstairs, into my apartment and knock on the door. He opens it slowly and I slam it open. I was pissed. I ask him what was so important that I needed to be home. He takes me downstairs to his car. This dude kneels down and opens the trunk to his car and there's a bouquet of flowers. And I'm like, no. No. I don't like you. He takes out a paper from his pocket and reads a poem he wrote. I leave this dude there and just get in my car and take off. Like, I had been telling him almost every day to leave me alone, that I don't like him, that I do not want to date him, and he just didn't get the point. He reached out to me like 2 years after I left the department. I told him to leave me alone. He then called me a cum dumpster, I had a baby with someone, and that I was trash and I was the worst thing that ever happened to him. I hate nice guys. Thanks for listening to Radio TTS. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell for more videos about nice people. Click the right box for the incel playlist. Share your own nice guy experiences in the comments below.